writer's block sucks, but so does life, and thus far we've survived that. So all this to say, we can survive writer's block too, right? Like, if 2025 and 2026 hasn't taken us out, writer's block is going to. Welcome to the Blank Page Podcast. I am your host, C.E. Withrow. You can call me Kat, and I'm here to give you the tools, tips, and tricks that you need to get your ideas out of your head onto the page, into the world. The blank page should not be an enemy. It should be an opportunity, and I'm trying to help other writers get to a place where that can happen. So, before I get into this first episode, you may be wondering, hey, who the hell are you and why should I take your writing advice? Good questions to ask. Considering the fact that I introduced myself as C. Withrow, you might have gotten the hint that I am an author. That is a pen name. Withrow is a family name. I am an indie author. I published my debut novel, Daisy Plucked, in 2024. It is a sapphic YA Hamlet retelling about a girl named Daisy whose lifelong best friend and very recent ex-girlfriend, Hannah, committed suicide. Or so she thinks, until Hannah's ghost shows up right after her funeral and says, actually, it wasn't suicide, it was murder, and you're the only person who can figure out what happened. So, hijinks ensue. It's a dual narrative. Hannah is the Hamlet character. I am a slut for Hamlet. I have a dog named Shakespeare. I can't say her name too loudly, sorry for the random ASMR, because she just stopped being annoying. I had to throw away 15 minutes of this already recorded episode because I realized that you could hear her bone chomp, 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 chomping away. So now we're here, we're queer, and we're full of fear of writer's block. The thing about writer's block is I don't know a single writer who hasn't experienced it in some way, shape, or form, because creativity is a very tricky thing. Trying to find inspiration, plus time to write, plus, finding your way through your story. And it's just a lot. Writing is a lot. And that's why it's a craft. I know this is the first episode, as I keep saying, but I do want to say up front, fuck using generative AI and LLMs in any form while working on a book. I think that you are more creative and smart and interesting than a machine that just chews up other people's words and spits it out. But that's just my opinion, is that you're too cool to use AI. And you're here because you want to learn to be a better writer, so we're going to get into it. The definition of writer's block, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is the condition of being unable to think of what to write or how to proceed with writing. And that about sums it up. It's just you can't write for whatever reason. You're creatively stuck, maybe you're literally stuck somewhere without access to writing utensils or what have you. I don't know your life. There's so many different causes to writer's block, and sometimes it's really helpful to know why you have writer's block so you can try to kind of like get through it. Sometimes it doesn't matter why you have writer's block. You just have to kind of try a bunch of stuff to get through it, or like maybe you just have a lot of stuff to unpack upstairs. So if you have writer's block and you're like, I don't know why, I don't even know what I don't know about this situation, like I don't know why I can't write. My recommendation, get a notebook and a pen or a pencil, whatever your prerogative is. If you need to use a computer for accessibility reasons or something, do that. But I really recommend, if you're able to use a pen and paper, pencil and paper, whatever. I know that you have 100 notebooks laying around your house. Whatever notebook or piece of paper or printer paper, loose leaf, I don't care. Whatever you have, sit down, use it. Set a timer for 10 to 15 minutes. And once it starts, I just want you to sit down and write about your writer's block. And I don't want you to stop writing for that entire time. So that's why I'm saying, sometimes if you're not really a journaler, if you're not a handwriter, start with 10 minutes. Otherwise, you're going to start getting cramping in your hands and stuff. And just for those 10 to 15 minutes, write why you think you have writer's block. And this can start as easily as I think I have writer's block because I'm really busy at work right now, and blah, blah, blah. And maybe you just got to rant about work for a little bit. I also really recommend journaling. If you're a writer, I think you should be journaling every day. It is the one step of the artist way that I consistently make it to. It is the first step of the artist way. It's week 1. I've never made it to week 2 of the artist way. We don't have time to unpack that, but sitting down and just letting your brain empty, sometimes you'll figure out oh, I have writer's block because this scene isn't working. I know I once had writer's block for months for a couple of reasons. One was there was an unexpected death in my family. My uncle passed away. I loved him a lot. It was really hard. But also the book that I was writing, the scene that I was on, wasn't working. And if I didn't have the grief, I probably could have gotten through why the scene wasn't working. But in tandem, it wasn't happening. And then months later, after I'd moved on to something else, I realized like, oh, the scene is in the wrong place, and as soon as I move the characters to this other setting, it'll work a lot better. And then it did. You can write about like the scene that you're working on, say like, this is what's happened so far, this is what I think should happen, but like it's just not working and these characters aren't doing this. And sometimes it's like you gotta let go of your preconceived notions of what you thought the plot was gonna be, blah blah blah. I told myself that I wasn't gonna go down this rabbit hole, and here I am, halfway to fucking Wonderland. So let's get into the real practical advice portion. Also, it feels really weird podcasting alone. I did previously have a Taylor Swift podcast with my best friend Abby. It was called Swift Lore. It still is called Swift Lore. It's available everywhere. We have like close to 100 episodes. We stopped right after The Life of a Showgirl came out. So I've got 10 tips of things to try if you have writer's block. The first thing is I want you to write something purposefully terrible, like something that you don't think is good and that you don't think could ever be good. Like write just like the ugliest, worst version of the scene. Sometimes I'll just imagine the worst case scenario of like, what is the worst thing that could happen in the scene? Like, what is the stupidest, most out of place thing? And then I write that. Like, when I was a kid, my brother, this is funny, I don't know why I'm saying this, episode 1 of the podcast, you're gonna think I'm stupid, but when the last Harry Potter book came out, also fuck J.K. Turfling, all my homies hate J.K. Turfling, we do not support any Harry Potter official anything. I was a huge Potter head, whatever. I waited till the last Harry Potter book came out before I sat down and like read the whole series. I was 10. Also, my brother had been a huge fan. He's older brother. Anyways, so I had just started the 7th book, and he was like, they all die at the end. And I was like, shut up. No, they don't. He was like, yeah, a nuke goes off at Hogwarts and everybody dies. He was like, also, Hedwig dies. And I was like, shut up, you're lying. So then Hedwig died, and I was like, oh my God, he couldn't possibly be telling the truth about one thing and not the other thing. So write something just like so purposefully stupid and terrible that's just like, yeah, this obviously isn't gonna happen. Because sometimes you just need to stop taking yourself so seriously when it comes to writing, because like writing is hard and beautiful and joyful and painful and all of the wonderful emotions that it can be, but only if you let it be all of those emotions. So sometimes write something really stupid, right? Like, and then a nuke goes off. And what then? What then? It's so stupid. In the words of Benoit Blanc, it's just dumb. So dumb it's genius? No, it's just dumb. I'm a huge Knives Out fan, by the way. I had a dream that I solved the mystery and Daniel Craig was there, and I kept thanking him. It was specifically Daniel Craig dressed as Benoit Blanc. We're only on the first piece of advice, and I've already tangented this many times. In case you can't tell, I do have ADHD. I am medicated. So imagine me unmedicated. First 23 years of my life, crazy. The second piece of advice is to rewrite the scene that you're stuck on, or the chapter, just like beginning of the chapter, beginning of the scene, whatever your kind of like writing organizational style is, up to you, and just start from there and write it from somebody else's point of view, or just a different point of view overall. Like, let's say the conversation is between two characters and it's in first person. You could do first person from character B's point of view instead of character A's, or you could try third person. You could try second person if you're feeling crazy, which is like the YN self-insert fix of my youth. They're still out there, I know, but just try thinking of it from a different perspective, because sometimes you just need to see like how another character would react to things. Like maybe you're only thinking about your point of view characters, like how they're looking at the world, but really you need to understand this other character a little bit better to know how they would react to the situation. Everything's a matter of perspective in the world, and that's also true in writing. So sometimes you just got to mess around with the perspectives a little bit, and that will make it work. It's also possible that like I was writing a book and I was like 7 chapters into the first draft, which was about a third of the way through the draft, and then I realized like, oh, it's not working because it's in third person point of view and it needs to be in first person. So sometimes trying like an exercise like this will then make you realize like, oh, I actually need to do this for the entire rest of the book. You do you. It is your prerogative, but I found this helpful in the past. The next thing is something that I personally love to do when I'm researching, plotting, writer's blocking for a project, and that is watching a documentary or some other type of informational content about something related to your book. So this can be, maybe you like look at a masterclass on world building if you're working on fantasy, or like the history of witchcraft, or like witches in fiction, or the history of like look into some dragon lore. I don't know what you're writing about. My mind went to fantasy as the first thing to give weird examples of, because I feel like if I was a fantasy writer and I got this advice, I'd be like, yeah, sure, let me just watch a documentary on the world that I made up. There's things you can look up. Like right now I'm working on a Snowstorm, like locked in mystery novel about a group of college seniors just got back for their last semester of college and they get snowed in, someone gets murdered, hijinks ensue, you know how it goes. And I found some really interesting documentaries about snowstorms, like how snowstorms work. I'm setting my book in Buffalo, New York, and I found that sometimes like when you watch something like this, it just gives you a different perspective on like what you're talking about. Like for me, learning about like the emergency services couldn't get through the storm in like the 2022 blizzard, people died from like being stuck in their cars. Like it doesn't have to be depressing things that you learn, but it can inform your setting. So like let's say you're writing a book that's set in a place that you haven't been before, look up some stuff about that place. And this next piece of advice, this will only work if it's really, really, really just the scene that you're currently stuck on and not like your larger story. And that is just to skip the scene that you're working on right now and go to the next one. But beware if you do this that you really should write like what will happen in the scene. Like if you're just getting stuck with like the dialogue isn't working or you don't know the exact character dynamics yet, something like that, just skip the scene, jot some notes down. You can come back to it in the next draft, or maybe later in the draft you'll be like, oh, now I know exactly what to write in that scene. Writing is a continuous process from the moment you come up with an idea until the moment it gets published. And even then, sometimes I come up with ideas for my book that came out in October of 2024. It is February of 2026. And sometimes I still am like, what if I, and then I'm like, the book's done. The book is done and it is published and hundreds of people have bought it and possibly read it. So can't really make changes. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. This next one is one of my favorite ways to figure out a book's plot and just like really think through stuff. Surprising no one, I love to talk. I love a yap. I love a bit of goss. And so sometimes when I'm really stuck on a scene or something, I will just talk out loud. Sometimes I'll record a voice memo. Sometimes I'm talking to a friend. Usually it's just me talking to my dog about like, this scene isn't working and like this is what's happening and this is what I want to have next and like this is what I can see them doing this and doing this and blah blah blah. But like really sometimes when you just talk and like let the words flow out and you're not thinking about every word that you're writing down or typing up, whatever, you're just word vomiting, it can really help you figure stuff out. And sometimes you just have to say something out loud to be like, oh duh, obviously I should do XYZ. I don't really fully understand how our brains work, but I do know that different modes of communication for me feel different in how I process them. So sometimes you just gotta talk it out. This is also really helpful. Tip number 6 is another free write. So same rules apply as the last one. Sit down, set a timer, handwrite if you're able, and just write about everything that you love about your story. Don't even think about the scene that you're stuck on. Don't think about any of the problems. Just like what excited you about this story that made you want to sit down and write it. Like I know for the book that I'm working on, I was excited by the idea of doing like a locked door mystery. I lived in a house with a bunch of other people when I was in college and it was interesting. And so I wanted to like take some inspiration from that experience and also set it in upstate New York because I love upstate New York. Just write for 10 to 15 minutes about what you love about the story, because sometimes, especially if you're just like dreading sitting down to write, just be like, okay, I have this perfect ending in mind and I just have to get to it. And I'm someone who writes chronologically for the most part. Like I need to write chapter 1, 2, 3, 4. I need to write them in order. I need to go through understanding it. I can't skip around personally. If you can, I love that for you. Couldn't be me. So sometimes you just gotta sit down and write what you love about your story to remind you what you're passionate about and kind of like reignite that spark. Because I think when you're getting like really bogged down in research and grammar and writing and structure and all these things that go into a story, sometimes you forget that it's supposed to be like joyous and fun and amazing. And sometimes writing isn't joyous and amazing and fun, but like it can be, and you can put in the effort to make it that way as well. This next one is for if you're feeling like kind of overwhelmed and you think maybe the writer's block in some way is just because you haven't had the time to be creative. If you have like half an hour, 45 minutes, this is a really good thing to do. So this advice is just like lay on the floor or on your couch if you have a bad back. Like some people, that's me, not even 30 and I already have a bad back. That's crazy. Lay on the floor, your bed, wherever, nothing around you. Like no put on your headphones maybe, or play out loud. Maybe if you have a record player, this would be a good time for a record player, and just like listen to your project playlist or an album that makes you think of your book, or just a single song on repeat, and just let yourself do nothing and think about your book. Like, just have a little daydream sesh. And if you're of age, maybe you have like a little drink with this. You have a little glass of wine while you're laying there. Maybe if you live in a state where it's legal, like I do, you can smoke a little weed before you lay down to think. And just give yourself like the time and space to not feel like you have to write everything down or you have to record every thought that you're having. Just think and maybe mumble out loud, talk out loud, whatever works for you, but just have time where you're not doing anything else, you're not trying to do anything else, and you're just laying there and thinking. And if you start falling asleep, get up. I mean, like, if you have some big breakthrough, maybe take a second, do a voice note on your phone, and then get back to the thinking, but try not to do too much, like interrupting yourself, because you just want to get it flowing, get the juices flowing, get your brain back into the state of mind of your story. Because sometimes it's like you just get disconnected from your story. This is going to sound really counterintuitive, but tell yourself that you don't have to write for a week. Like, just say to yourself, no, you know what, I'm not going to write. I'm not going to like try to write. I'm not even going to think about my story for a week. And I found that when I stop thinking about my story, either A, I come back to it feeling really refreshed and really excited, or B, when I'm not actively thinking about it, that's when the little idea factory in my skull spits out the solution. And this next one's kind of similar to the laying on the floor one, but it's a little bit more active. If you are prone to falling asleep when you're laying down, like I know I am, try to go for a run or a walk or a bike ride, whatever is your prerogative. Music is optional but encouraged. And once again, just have a think about your story. I know that like I love putting on my little project playlist, taking my dog for a walk, and like, I mean, when it's not 20 degrees and snowy out like it is right now in Rochester. But make sure if you are listening to music while you're doing this, like make sure it's safe. Like if you're walking at night, don't listen to music. Maybe don't do that at night. If you're bike riding, I don't think you're allowed to wear headphones. I don't really know. I haven't ridden a bike in years, but I'm sure that I could pick it up again, because you know what they say. Anyways, my last tip is kind of a basic one, and you might already have done this, but if you're stuck, just like make a project playlist for the specific book that you're working on, or series, or what have you. And if you already have a project playlist, make a character playlist. If you already have a character playlist, maybe make a playlist that's like really specific just for the scene. These playlists don't have to be long, they don't have to be like expansive. One thing that I really like about having playlists for a project is I'll add to them over time. Like I'll hear a song and go, oh my god, this is so like Willow coded, which is the main character of the book I'm working on. Like I gotta put that on her playlist. But just do something like, I love a multimedia approach to writing. Like I love making a mood board, I love making a playlist. So just do something that's like not writing, but is thinking about the world of your story and thinking about narrative structures and things like that. I don't know if that made sense, but to me, I also have like a background in music, so like I love music, I love songwriting. I used to want to be a singer-songwriter. In retrospect, I just wanted to be a writer, but people listen more when you're standing on a stage speaking at them than if you're trying to get someone to buy a poem. So, such is life. Yeah, I do think that music can be an incredible inspiration for writing, for like any form of anything, and I know that there's tons of playlists out there if you're like thinking of a specific mood or vibe or like emotion. There are playlists out there, and you can kind of like explore those to add to your playlist. And then also that just gets you thinking about the different like emotional beats or story beats that are in your project, and that can kind of, once again, I think that beating writer's block is all about shifting your perspective and being able to move on and change the way that you're approaching your writing, because what you were doing before is no longer working. So those are all my little writer's block tips. Before I go, one thing I want to leave you with is that there is no one correct way to write a book. Like, yes, there are rules of grammar and storytelling and structure and all that, but many of those rules can be broken, and B, that doesn't really cover how you're writing your book. Like, there's nobody that's going to stand over your shoulder and say, like, if you don't write an hour every day, you're not a real writer. And if there is someone that's sitting over your shoulder saying that, you got an elbow for a reason, you know? Hit them, they're right behind you, knock back that elbow. Fuck that guy for telling you that you're not a writer for any stupid reason. So just try something new. Try writing in 5-minute increments. Try writing an hour at a time. Try writing in your bed, on your couch, on your lunch break, in a coffee shop. Try handwriting a chapter or typing it up on your phone instead of on your computer or on your iPad. Try a different notebook. Try it in a different font. I don't know. Live your life. Just try something different. If what you're doing isn't working, this is your permission to try something new, and you are not failing by trying something new. You're succeeding by trying something new. And just try all these different things until you find what works for you, and then if it stops working, try something new again. As a former professor and incredible poet that I admire so much said, look everywhere and you will find what you need. And that's true of everything, but especially for writing. Sometimes you have this great idea and you start working on it, but you just need more information or a different outlook or a different perspective, or just to write in a new place with maybe some fresh air or less fresh air, if that's your prerogative. And if you're like, yeah, that's great advice, Kat, except I don't know where to start, totally fair. If there's an author in particular that you admire, try looking up their writing routine and trying it out. There are lots of videos like on YouTube. I know I love watching these of like people trying different famous authors like writing routines. I think that's really interesting and fun, so like maybe watch some of those for some ideas. Bonus tip, woohoo! The last thing that I want to say about the whole writer's block conversation, everything is, and this kind of goes for all writing, but you're allowed to fail. This is officially me. I'm giving you permission from now until eternity to fail at things, because failure is not a stopping point, it is a speed bump. If you write a book and you're like, this book is not working and I don't know why, and I know I need to fix it, but I don't know why, shelve it. Come back to it in a year when you've read more books and explored more of the world and met more people. There's no timeline. The great thing about writing is like, yes, maybe you want to publish a book every year. Maybe you want to do this and that, but realistically, those are deadlines that you've set for yourself. You don't have to follow them. Nothing bad is going to happen if you decide to switch up your writing schedule. Writing is great because it lets you use your imagination, and it lets you put yourself in other people's shoes and create work that can create connections between people and cultures and time periods, and it's beautiful, and I love writing. Sometimes I'm not good at it, and that's okay. And I think everybody just needs to be okay with not being great at stuff all the time. I say that as if one thing that I'm not great at is not being great at stuff. So, easier said than done, but another little mindset shift. And I thought to wrap up the episode would be to talk a little bit about what I've been reading lately. And then if you're listening to this, if you got to this point, I would love to hear about what you're writing, what you're reading in the comments. Or you can message me on Instagram at CEWitherow. The spelling of that is all going to be in the show notes or description. So I just started reading 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I know that it's a classic. I know that people really fuck with it. And I just decided to get it. It was no wait at my local library on Libby for the audiobook, so I've started it. Do I know what's going on? No. Am I going to figure it out? Maybe. I think it's really fun. I did just recently read a book that I was obsessed with. It was called Serial Killer Support Group, and literally I could not stop thinking about I started the audiobook during a commute and then ended up listening to it on my commute home, and then the next day was a weekend, and so literally the entire day I just sat down and listened to my audiobook and played Stardew Valley. Keep writing, keep reading, and keep on keeping on. Bye.